In this video, I am going to 3D print and hand paint my own butterfly knife fade, as well as learn some cool tricks, but that's not all. I'm also going to make 2 other mystery knives first, and take you guys through my step-by-step process on how I make these awesome knives. The first skin we are going to do is this Ursus Doppler, which is a request from one of my shorts, and I'm going to go for a phase 1. These knives are currently selling for about £350, which is a really good price for a clean Doppler, so definitely a good choice for a budget knife. I started off by going onto Blender and using my Source Tools plugin to extract the MDL files from the game, making sure to choose the highest quality model. I used 3D Builder to repair it, which is a really useful tool to fix the broken meshes that are in the game and make it an actual real world shape that I can print. Finally, I imported it into my slicer using ultra high resolution, and because this is a really straight knife with not many complex parts, I decided to lay it out flat on its back and generated tree supports underneath it. While this printed, I went on Amazon and had a look for some special filament that I'm going to need for my next knife. I found this clear blue filament which looked really good and got it delivered to my house. Now the Ursus knife has finished printing, great, that only took 10 hours. After peeling off the supports, I realised how poor the print quality actually was, so I researched online looking for the best ways to clean up my print. I found this really helpful tutorial to tidy up dodgy prints, and the solution is going to surprise you. Wood filler. Bought wood filler off Amazon, it's like £4, and I've mixed it with some water. I'm going to try and brush it on, see how that goes. Mixed it with water to thin it out so I could get right between the layer lines and waited for it to dry. I used my makeshift dehydrator that I made with one of my filament boxes, and this took about half an hour to dry, which might seem like a long time, but it's 4 hours faster than what it said on the packet. This made the surface so uniform and smooth, it felt amazing. Now it's all dry and smooth and I can get to painting. Starting with masking and spraying the handle, and then using acrylics to create the beige grip. Next I use shades of blue and pink to create the crystal blade. That's all the coats done, and I think this looks great. Time for my next knife. For my next knife, I wanted something that is easy to make, but looks really eye-catching, and I was also really enjoying making the crystal knives, so I decided to go with the sapphire. And if I'm going to go for an expensive finish, I might as well go for an expensive knife too. The karambit sapphire, costing almost 13k, and that's in today's market conditions. For karambit, I often find it easier to just split them in half down the middle and print them in 2 halves so I get a high quality exterior. Because I was printing in this transparent filament, I also wanted to make sure that I use 100% infill, because otherwise my slicer will generate these geometric patterns in the middle which will be visible, and I don't want that. Because I was printing in PETG, I had to make some modifications to my printer since this material has a higher melting point and I don't really want to melt through my printer's components.
Got this piece here which is to go in the hot end, and it's going to mean it's all metal, so nothing will melt.
I installed this bimetal upgrade inside my hot end, changed it to a bigger nozzle, and I was all set. I also decided to use Pritt Stick on my bed, because funnily enough, this actually makes it easier to get the prints off once they are ready. 4 hours later, I peeled them off and got to gluing. Unfortunately, I glued the 2 halves together, but they weren't quite lined up correctly. No. All good though, I used a knife to trim off the overlap. As you're probably realising, however, this skin in game doesn't actually have a glue handle. Let's fix that. Perfect. Now the karambit is all done, and look at that, you can see through the blade a bit. Not as great as on the advert for the filament, but it's all good. The time has come for the butterfly fade, which is another request from one of you lot. If you made it this far, consider liking the video. I've only got 800 and something subscribers, and even if you don't want to sub, liking the video helps YouTube show it to someone that does. Anyway, let's continue. I 3D printed this butterfly knife in all black parts from my Ender 3, which took about 15 hours, since I'm using the highest possible quality. I popped off all the parts and arranged them on my workbench, trying to remember what goes where. After identifying which parts needed painting, I sprayed them in turn with some primer and left them to dry my dehydrator. While they dried, I verified the pins fit into the handle, which they did. Great. The primer does a great job of helping the paint stick, and I sprayed the grips in glossy red. I also glued the blade together with super glue, using the pins to line it up. Finally, for the fade part, I started off without really knowing what I was doing, since I'm not the best painter in the world, so I turned to a trusty Sunset YouTube tutorial. So I got to work, and I was kind of impressed with myself, even after just the first coat, and the second coat was even better. Once that dried, I assembled the whole thing, and boom, now I have probably my favourite IRL skin to date. Time to learn some tricks. The first one I learned was this basic open, where you flick it against your hand, which is actually pretty easy, and then this twisty flick. I also saw this one where you like spin it around your hand, but that didn't go so well. I also tried doing the one for in-game, but only really got the first half. Still, enough to do this ice cold transition. Anyway, that's the video guys. I'm struggling for ideas now, so make sure you spam me with your favourite knife skins. And also if you want one of these knives, there's a link in the description. Thanks for watching till the end, and see you in the next one.